The cost of being too easy to read. If someone can easily trigger you, they can easily control you. Think about that. Every time you flinch, lash out, overreact, or chase validation, you're handing your power over to someone else. And most people don't even realize it. They think they're being real. They think emotional exposure equals emotional strength. But here's the truth. You're not strong just because you feel deeply. You're strong when you can feel deeply, without being moved against your will. So ask yourself, are you truly grounded, or just constantly reacting? Are you composed, or just good at hiding the chaos? Because in a world that profits off of your triggers, the most powerful move you can make is this: become emotionally unreachable. And today, I'll show you how. Why emotional distance equals quiet power. Let me tell you a quick story. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, Stoic philosopher, commander of legions, was betrayed more than once by people he trusted, trained, and elevated. But when that betrayal hit, he didn't explode. He didn't threaten. He didn't spiral into rage. He sat down, opened his journal, and wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's what made him untouchable. See, being emotionally unreachable doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're in control. It means no one gets to pull your strings unless you let them. And today, that kind of self-possession, it's rare. Most people are constantly reacting to comments, criticism, drama, disrespect. They get dragged into emotional quicksand without even realizing it. But when you're composed, when you stop being so easy to move, you gain a kind of quiet power, the kind that makes people pause before they speak to you, the kind that makes manipulators bounce off you, the kind that makes you impossible to dominate. In this video, I'll break down the psychology of emotional detachment, why it's so powerful, and how to build it step by step. Because once you stop being emotionally available to everyone, you stop being energetically available to nonsense. And that's when you become dangerous, in the best way. 1. Radical detachment. How to emotionally step back without shutting down. Let's start with a truth that most people don't want to hear. You're not your emotions, you're just the person experiencing them. And yet, every time something triggers us, a rude comment, a missed call, a passive-aggressive text, we become the reaction. Not just, "I feel angry." We say, "I am angry," and that's the problem. The moment you fuse your identity with the emotion, you lose your power to choose your response. The Stoics had a solution for this. Not repression, not denial, but radical detachment. Epictetus said, "It's not the event that disturbs you, but your judgment of it." So here's what that means in real life. Let's say someone insults you in front of others. Your heart races, your jaw tightens, your brain screams, "Hit back." Pause. That moment, right there, is the battlefield. Most people enter that moment as the anger, but you step outside the moment. You name it. You separate from it. You observe. Say to yourself, not, "I'm pissed off," but "I'm noticing anger." That small shift changes everything. It gives you distance. It gives you space to respond, not react. It turns you from participant to observer, and the observer holds the power. Here's a mental exercise to practice this detachment. The inner narrator. Drill. When you feel any intense emotion, don't act. Don't speak. In your head, narrate it like you're watching yourself from the outside. There's tension in my chest. Thoughts are racing. I'm feeling insulted. Breathe. Count to 4. Then ask, is reacting right now a strategic move or just emotional impulse? The more you do this, the faster your mind learns. I don't have to follow every emotional signal. I can observe, then decide. This is not about being passive. It's about being precise. Detachment isn't weakness. It's discipline. You're not removing emotion from your life. You're removing its ability to hijack your identity. And the more you master this practice, the harder it becomes for anyone to provoke you. Your presence becomes heavier, your silence more loaded, and your reactions more calculated, if they ever come at all. Now that you've built this internal separation, let's go even deeper. Because not reacting is one of the strongest reactions you can ever deliver. Let's talk about strategic non-reaction. 2. Strategic non-reaction, the most powerful reaction, is no reaction. You know what makes people uncomfortable? Silence. Not the awkward kind, the composed kind. The kind that says, I saw what you did. I felt it, but I'm not giving you access to my emotions. Most people react automatically. They defend themselves when criticized. They try to explain when disrespected. They respond instantly when challenged, because they feel they have to. But here's the truth. Every time you react emotionally, you reveal your weakness. Every time you don't, you become harder to read and harder to reach. Your silence creates pressure. It creates doubt. It forces the other person to fill in the blanks. There's a reason why elite negotiators pause before responding, why military leaders speak slowly under fire, why Stoics journal before they act. It's not because they don't feel anything, it's because they've learned that reactivity is vulnerability. Let me tell you a story. A client of mine once got a passive-aggressive email from a colleague. He felt the urge to snap back, right there in the moment, but instead, he did nothing for 24 hours. No reply, no reaction, no energy given. The next day, the colleague backtracked, softened their tone. Why? Because the absence of reaction created uncertainty, and uncertainty makes people negotiate with themselves. They start wondering, did I go too far? Did he catch that? Is he planning something? And that inner chaos. You didn't have to say a word. That's control. Here's how to train this. The 5-second rule for emotional power. Whenever you're emotionally triggered, pause. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say nothing. Do nothing. Just breathe. Then ask yourself, is this reaction about power or insecurity? If it's insecurity, stay silent. If it's strategy, move deliberately. That pause is where you reclaim your authority. It tells your nervous system, we don't flinch anymore. And when people realize you're not quick to respond, they start watching their tone. They second-guess their tactics. They feel the weight of your composure. Because power isn't loud, it's patient. And once you own your reactions, you control the emotional tempo of any room you walk into. Now let's add another layer of precision, not just non-reaction, but calculated silence. Because when used right, your silence becomes a weapon sharper than any word. Let's talk about the power of tactical silence. 3. Use silence as your weapon, the quiet that commands. Let me tell you something most people never understand. Powerful people don't fill silence. They own it. You've been conditioned to believe that silence is awkward, that if someone challenges you, you need to respond immediately, that you'll lose ground if you don't fill the space. But here's what the Stoics knew, and what high-level operators practice every day. Silence isn't the absence of power, it's the presence of control. Think of Marcus Aurelius sitting in court, hearing lies, manipulation, and political games. What did he do? He paused. He waited. He let silence work on the room before he said a word. Because when you speak too soon, you give away too much. But when you hold your ground in silence, you force everyone else to sit with their own noise. And here's the psychological truth. Silence creates pressure. It creates mental static in the other person. It makes them question themselves. What are you thinking? Why aren't you reacting? Did they miss something? Or did they hit a nerve? That internal guessing game, that's your leverage. Here's a real-world example. A woman I worked with, executive level, was constantly interrupted in meetings. Instead of raising her voice, she shifted her approach. She started pausing, letting the interruption hang in the air, saying nothing, holding eye contact, breathing. Guess what happened? People stopped interrupting. She didn't demand respect. She trained the room to give it to her. That's the power of weaponized silence. It doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It holds. And in that holding, the room bends. Here's how to train it. Tactical silence drill. In your next heated moment, pause, count to 3, say nothing, look, breathe. Let the silence stretch, even if it feels uncomfortable, especially when it feels uncomfortable. Because most people can't handle it. They'll fold, they'll over-explain, they'll scramble to fill the space. And when they do, they reveal more than they meant to. But you're not here to react. You're here to assess, to decide, to own the tempo. Silence buys time. Time sharpens thought. Thought leads to strategic action. And once people realize that your silence means you're thinking, not panicking, they start watching their words. They respect the quiet, because true presence doesn't need volume. It radiates, it pressurizes, it commands. And once you master that, you won't need to raise your voice. Your energy will already speak louder than any word. Now that you've learned how to stay still under fire, let's turn up the heat. Because the best way to stay calm in chaos is to train in chaos, on purpose. Let's talk about voluntary discomfort, building psychological firewalls. 4. Train for chaos daily, voluntary discomfort practice. Let's get one thing straight. You won't become emotionally unshakable by reading quotes, watching videos, or saying mantras. You become unshakable by walking into discomfort on purpose, by putting yourself in controlled chaos. So when real chaos hits, your system doesn't fold. And this is where most people tap out. They want calm, but avoid pressure. They want control, but avoid resistance. They want strength, but stay addicted to comfort. But the Stoics, they understood something deeper. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, chose to sleep on the floor, chose to skip meals, chose to walk without his guards. Why? Because he knew, if you only train in peace, you'll break in war. And modern life, it's filled with fake pressure, notifications, emails, attention spikes. But none of that prepares you for the real thing: loss, betrayal, humiliation, failure. So here's the Stoic move. You simulate chaos before it arrives. You inoculate your nervous system against panic. You make yourself familiar with discomfort so it doesn't shock you anymore. Let me give you a real example. A high-level entrepreneur I worked with. Brilliant, visionary. But before every pitch, his hands would shake, breath would shorten. We didn't relax him. We trained him. Cold showers, 24-hour fasts, no headphones during workouts. Every morning something hard, on purpose. Why? Because stress was no longer something that happened to him. It was something he had already met in training. And guess what? The anxiety dropped. Focus sharpened. Meetings turned into performances because the edge was now his. Here's how you can start. Voluntary discomfort rituals. Pick one daily. Cold exposure. 1 to 2 minutes under cold water. Teaches your body, we stay calm, even when shocked. Digital fasting. No social media for 24 hours once a week. Retrains your brain to stop chasing hits. Focus replaces stimulation. 24-hour rule. Delay one gratification per day. Say no to sugar. Skip the caffeine. Don't binge the show. Train your weight muscle. Silent mornings. First 30 minutes of the day. No talking. Builds inner presence. Slows your thoughts before the world speeds them up. None of this is about punishment. It's about programming. Because every time you do something uncomfortable by choice, you're sending a signal to your mind. I'm not controlled by cravings. I'm not afraid of tension. I move through fire, calm, and when someone finally tests you in real life, with disrespect, with delay, with drama, you don't flinch. Because your body has already learned, discomfort doesn't mean danger. It means training. It means growth. That's why Stoics don't just survive chaos. They walk through it like they've been there before, because they have. Now that your nervous system is catching up to your mind, let's finish this blueprint with the most powerful boundary of all, your mental territory. Because no matter how disciplined you are, if you leave your mind unguarded, someone will come in and take space they don't deserve. Let's finish strong. 5. Protect your mental territory. Not everything deserves space in your head. You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your home, open your fridge, touch your books, insult your family, and just hang out. So why do you let people walk into your mind like that? With a text, a comment, a passive dig, a post you didn't ask to see. And what happens? You replay it. You overanalyze it. You argue with it in your head. Hours later, congratulations, you just gave them real estate in your mental kingdom. And here's the part most people miss. Your peace isn't stolen. You give it away. The Stoics had one rule for this. Don't let what you can't control control you. Translation: if it's outside your power, it shouldn't live in your head. Because most of your stress isn't caused by the event. It's caused by the echo, the endless mental replay, the imaginary arguments. The noise after the moment has already passed. That's where your strength bleeds out. So here's the shift. You don't just protect your time. You don't just protect your energy. You protect your mental territory, like your life depends on it. Here's how you do it. Mental gatekeeping practice. At the end of your day, write down 3 things that took up space in your head. That comment, that thought, that emotion you kept revisiting. Next to each one, ask, did I choose this? Is this helping me grow? Would the future version of me still care? If the answer is no, cross it out, literally, with a pen. Send a message to your brain, this doesn't belong here, because just like your home, your mind needs boundaries. Not everything gets access, not everyone gets to stay. And the more you practice this, the stronger your filter becomes. You stop ruminating, you stop replaying, you stop inviting ghosts to dinner. Your mind becomes clean, focused, sovereign. And here's the wild thing. When you protect your inner space, people start noticing it from the outside. They feel the boundary. They sense the distance. They realize you're not someone who can be mentally invaded. That's not cold. That's clarity. That's command. And when you combine this with the other 4 strategies, you don't just become hard to read, you become impossible to move. Let's bring it all together. When you master your emotions, you control the room. Let's make one thing clear. Being emotionally unreachable doesn't mean you're numb. It means you're undisturbed by noise. It means you can feel anger without lashing out. You can feel fear without running. You can feel disrespected and still choose to respond from clarity, not chaos. That's not cold. That's command. That's leadership at the most personal level. And in a world addicted to reaction, your stillness becomes rare. Your silence becomes pressure, Your restraint becomes power. So let's recap what you've now unlocked. 1. Radical detachment. You are not your emotions. You observe them, you guide them, you refuse to be owned by them. 2. Strategic non-reaction delay is strength. That 5-second pause rewires your nervous system and confuses your enemies. 3. Tactical silence. Let them talk. You watch. Your silence turns the room into your arena, where they overplay and you stay still. 4. Voluntary discomfort. Train in fire. You seek challenge, not because you love pain, but because you trust pressure to build you. 5. Mental territory protection. Your mind is a fortress. Not everything gets to enter. Not everyone gets to stay. You filter noise like a sovereign. Individually, these are powerful. But together, they form a new operating system, a psychological upgrade, a way of moving through life without leaking energy to every trigger, comment, or false demand. You become the kind of person who walks into a room and shifts the energy without saying a word. Not because you dominate, but because you don't need to. And that's the ultimate presence. Here's your challenge. Pick one of these 5 strategies. Just one. Apply it daily for 7 days. Watch what changes. You'll feel your mind get quieter. You'll stop explaining yourself to people who don't matter. You'll stop negotiating your worth in conversations that don't deserve you. You'll move slower, think sharper, and command more by doing less. Because when you master your emotional responses, you stop dancing to their music. You set the rhythm, you define the tone, you own the room because you own yourself. That's Stoic, that's elite, and that's what you're becoming, ready to lock this in even deeper. Watch next. 5 Stoic techniques to control your emotions instantly. This is where we go real time. How to break reactive loops in the exact moment they try to hijack you and become the calmest, sharpest presence in the room. Let's finish what you started.